when I spit bars in the rain. Man, I go hard like Santan.
Yes, hello, one and all, everybody. Welcome back to your weekly edition of TG. It's your boy SV Carbaholic. I'm back. Yes, back on hosting duty. It's been a minute for me. It's been a minute for all of us, to be fair. We've been quite slack, but unfortunately, this is what happens when life hits a bunch of mid to late 30s men who are married, children, life, bills, all of that palaver, man. Life can really get on top. But as such, yeah, here we are, man. So, but it's coming to you a little bit later than usual, but we're still getting you the weekly edition. We will work to get the Patreon back up and running as well, as we know we've been a bit slack on that. So apologies from our side. Big up the patrons who do continue to support, though, and you can join for as little as £3 a month. Yeah, okay, cool. So what you would have seen if you're based in the UK, the sun was shining this week, and that's important to note because, bruh, it has rained nearly almost every single day this year. But yesterday, I think it was Wednesday, yeah, we legit had in some parts like 17, 18 degrees. The big North London derby week victory. And with me to touch on all of that good stuff as we embark on it is my brother Shabs. How are you, Shabs, this evening?
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here, man. Can't complain. My team are taking a break from disgracing me. And yeah, man, it's been feel good factor all this week, to be honest with you. So yeah, man, I'm happy.
Yeah, it is good, right? And obviously we're now, Shabs, 10 games to go. We have had a bit of a wobble, it's fair to say, you know. Draws against Brentford, draws against Wolves, really upset the apple cart. And I guess, you know, just before we go into the Spurs game, let's have a little bit of a temperature check for where we are. Yeah, when you're trying to win a league title for the first time in 22 years, there's probably a psychological aspect at play here. I'll be honest, I've been quite calm all season, but the Wolves game really threw me. I can't lie to you. I was not in a good place after that. I was just sat staring at darkness for like 2 days, bro. I was so vexed, but it's part and parcel, you know, because whilst, and this is not excusing, for example, the Wolves' performance, right? We're at the stage of the season where everyone's got something to play for. Teams are battling for the league, teams are battling for Europe, teams are battling to stay in the league. So there's something on the line for everyone. So you do kind of see these results happen every now and then. It's not to excuse, obviously, some of it because we're trying to be the best, so we should be winning, and we didn't win. So it was really important to bounce back the way we did. But how are you? I guess, yeah, temperature check. 10 games left. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. The Wolves game pissed me off, and I suppose how I would categorize that is like the good form that we've demonstrated and the good results that we've demonstrated this season count for nothing if you cannot capitalize in the games that you're absolutely supposed to win. Because what happens, I suppose, there's an expected level performance and expected results, I suppose, against the majority of teams. And then there are teams where there's a bit of an overperformance, maybe like the better teams, the tougher opposition or whatnot. Like, you know, think about like a Man City away. If we get a result not playing well or actually playing really well, that's maybe a expected performance for some, but probably an overperformance for others. And then you've got underperformances in games where actually you don't play well, but you get the results, or underperformances in games where you actually don't get a result. And that's not happened for Arsenal much this season. You know, we've kind of got the expected result, or we've delivered above and beyond the expectations. The result against Wolves was probably the first time this season where it's like, yeah, actually, this was below par. And it was below par just in terms of performance and result. And, you know, anyone can lose a game or drop points in a game. But the manner in which we dropped points in that game, I think, was just so incredibly disappointing. And I wasn't rattled, but it was very, very, very frustrating, especially when you think about the second half performance. So for me, we need to get back. And yeah, like, it was just, I'm glad that we heard all this talk about Rice declaring a team meeting, and Saka as well was not happy. You could tell Saka was not happy with that result. So these men needed to get it back in blood. Yeah, going into a North London derby, they absolutely just needed to go and smoke Tottenham.
Yeah, and I guess when you take a step back and look at it, right, I think for me, one of the disappointing aspects of the previous periods, every time we've kind of had an opportunity to extend our lead and stretch the lead at the top, we've kind of failed. You look back to the Liverpool game, 0-0 at home, poor performance, and then you look back to after Man United lost the City lost the Manchester derby to United. We could have then gone potentially, I think it was like 8-9 points clear. We failed, drew at Forest, had the opportunity again. So it's a bit disappointing that we've had missed opportunities. But again, we've won like 3 of our last 7. I think City are pretty much exact same. So it's kind of, the league itself is tough. A lot of teams are taking points off a lot of teams. You'll see in the Champions League race, there's like 4 or 5 teams vying for 3 spots. So it is, and I'm assuming there's probably going to be more and more drop points at the end of the season. But I really think, it'll be interesting to see what happens. We've obviously got City in the cup final as well. But what we did do, Shabs, after the disappointing results, we needed to bounce back, and we did against Spurs in the North London derby at White Hart Lane. That is now our 4th win in a row at their stadium. We've won more times at their stadium than they have done at the Emirates. All in total, they've won 3 times away at us in the last 40 years, and we've done it just 4 times in a row now. So it was very, very important. I was a bit worried going into the game, not because I particularly rate Spurs, and we've seen that this season, but new manager bounce. They'd had 12 days rest. We hadn't looked particularly great coming in, so you could potentially see why people were concerned going into this game, but. The guys really, really got it back in blood. The manager made a couple of changes. We saw Eze come in. We saw Trossard start. So they replaced Madueke and Martinelli respectively. And the rest of the team was pretty much the same from Wolves. So, talk to me early stages of the game. We started really, really well. We, the atmosphere, I have to give it credit. Them man were ready to try and give us hell from the start. It was noise splitting stuff. But one thing I really liked that we did, which just shut them down from early, we just kept the ball. Sometimes when you go away from home and you talk about, I think Arteta's spoken about it before, just shut the crowd up. That's the quickest way to do it. And we were there. We had already forced them back. We had pinned them back in. We had a couple early chances. If you look, Saliba had one from Gyokeres knocked down at a corner. Gyokeres had the one where he cut inside, and then he lashed it just wide, unluckily. We had a couple other moments as well, very, very early on in the game. I think they tried to clear it. Trossard tried to shoot from like 60 yards. But so, yeah, they were boxed in. I think in the first half alone, they only had 1 touch in our box in the whole first half. And that was the one they scored with, right? So from the Rice mistake. So the goal was coming when it did eventually come. And obviously it was through Saka, who, lucky ricochet, but got it back off Sarr, and then Eze tucked it away. So, talk me through your initial thoughts around the first half, how we started and how we eventually took the lead.
Yeah, well, first things first, and I need to get this off. Tottenham Football Club are not rivals to me. They're noisy neighbours.
Hold that.
They're noisy neighbours, but they're not rivals. And I tell you why. People say I'm mugging it, and that one of my closest friends is Spurs fan, isn't it? Unfortunate for him, but my thing is this: like, never have we ever been in direct sporting competition with one another over something, innit? So it's like for me to see them and respect them purely as rivals, like it can't just be about locality. We have to be both going after the same things, and we're just so far apart as clubs, the states of our clubs at this moment in time, and have been for a long time. The closest thing that they can kind of draw us to in terms of direct competition is top four, which was never really Arsenal's place. Like Arsenal at their worst is when Tottenham were talking about breaking into the top four, when Arsenal were at their worst. When everyone's been firing, Tottenham have never been a top four side. So I just want to say that first things first. Secondly, I get the thing about new manager bounce and that, but there's just too much that Spurs had to do for me to have any kind of doubt about. Like my doubts were not about how Spurs could have damaged us. My doubts were, if any, and there weren't very many, but my doubts were like more about self-sabotage. Like we would go there and sheg if the mentality wasn't right, or if something went against us in the game. There's a potential for us to sheg. But genuinely speaking, we win against Spurs, and this is a hallmark of how we've played against them over the years. Almost always, like, you know, I've almost always seen Arsenal win. Like Spurs wins against my team are like, you know, I can count them on one hand type of thing. Like it's that type of beat. It's not many times where they've beat us or even blamed us. You know what I mean? So I expected it. They got too many injuries, man. They got too many players missing. When you look at like how they lined up, Palina starting at centre back, Gray, you know, like kind of like playing like along that right wing back, that type of thing on that right hand side. I just thought there's too much going on. Like there was a worry that there could be some workers in there and that they'd have fresher legs. So it was interesting. They went with Saar, Bissouma, Conor Gallagher. He's back in the Premier League, just doing marathons. You know, there was all of that in terms of workers, but in terms of quality, there just wasn't enough. So I wasn't really worried about them. How we lined up is how I think we should line up more time. More time away from home. I think that's how we should line up. At home, I think we should line up the same and drop one of Zubi or Rice, depending on game situation, and play Ødegaard there. I'll be honest with you. I've been saying it for a while. I don't think we need Zubi and Rice in the majority of games. For me, it's a bit too negative. But yeah, I think Trossard didn't have a good game, but Trossard needs to start when Gyokeres is playing up front. And Eze as well. You know, I think it's really important that Eze starts, because he looks like he actually gets close to Gyokeres. He looks like he occupies the space. What I like about what Eze gives us is presence in the center.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt while you're going, yeah, because I want to do individual sections on Eze and Gyokeres in it. So just talk about the rest of the score.
That's fine. So yeah, generally speaking, I think it's kind of like that's kind of like the lineup, the way that we need to go. Like we need to have the profiles in there which actually complement it. And if you know Gyokeres, for example, isn't great with ball retention and hold up play and allowing the ball to stick, it then doesn't enable the attacking line if you then pair him or partner him with Martinelli and Madueke. So, you know, you need profiles that complement each other, both in terms of technical, physical, and mental attributes as well. So I think we've done the right thing with the lineup, and the performance is the performance, man. I think like everything was trying to work against us. They were roaring. Then there was all that bullshit that happened early doors with the delay in play because I still don't know what it was. Like some technical equipment wasn't working, and there's just nothing going on the pitch, and for like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, or however long, that was bullshit, man. That was absolute bullshit. But for me, in general terms, it was a good lineup. It was a fantastic result. You know what I mean? Like we did the business. Like
yeah, and obviously in the lead, we took the lead in the first half. Then we had the Bozo error from Rice, which was really their only main attack of the first half. And then, but what I liked is the attentiveness with which we came out in second half. Obviously. Lovely ball from Timber into Gyokeres. First touch, good, fantastic finish. They did have, you know, the moment after where I did think it was soft, to be fair. I think Gabriel and he's done that a few times where obviously Muani did have his hands, but it was quite soft. And if it was the other way, let me not lie, that happened to us, I'd be a bit fuming and I'd want the goal given. But anyway, goal got ruled out. We then went down the other end as they started another move. Gyokeres flick sent through Saka. Saka didn't finish, but as they got the rebound, and then Gyokeres finished the fourth after a slide rule ball from Erdegaard. So I think it was a really dominant performance in the end, and it was the kind of performance you needed, especially after what we spoke about initially, with the initial, the Brentford drop points, the Wolves drop points, and not looking particularly great in any of those games. Now, how much do I want to read into those performances, Shabs? Tottenham tried to go man-to-man across. Like, I thought it was quite insane. Like, even though I loved Gyokeres' finish for his first goal, I was like, he legit picked the ball up in the space between the midfield and the back four. We rarely ever get those sort of situations in games. So I was a bit baffled by, Spurs' strategy at times, because to your point, they had like 3 runners in midfield, but we still kept getting in between them. They didn't really do much to deny space and in certain areas. So we were still able to pick locks and create chances quite easily, which, sometimes we've bemoaned quite a bit. Obviously, we were a bit more direct. I'm going to, and obviously, we got the goals in the end through Gyokeres and Eze, who are the big match winners on the day. Let's do the 2 individual performances I want to do, right? Because Gyokeres and Eze are the main talking points from this game, in my opinion. I'll start with Gyokeres, right? He's been criticised heavily this season, more heavily than most, and I think
deserves it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the criticism, unfortunately, has been justified. Like it is what it is. It's not us looking to have any agenda. It's that a lot of what he's shown for the money that's been spent hasn't been great. He struggles to get shots off in games. He struggles to create separation in games. But this was probably by alongside Burnley, probably better than Burnley, his best game for the club, because a lot of the stuff, we usually moan about, the fundamentals, ball bouncing off his shin, first touch, not being able to trap, not being able to link, connect, some of the other facets about being a 9 and, getting shots off as well. But he did manage to get shots off in this game. When we did the tapes, we often used to talk about how we like to pull into the channels, especially the left channel, right? He loves the left channel. And I was quite encouraged by, first early on in the game, where he had that 1v, he got fed the ball, I think, by Hincapié in the inside left channel, took Dragusin on 1v1 and created a place to get a shot off. There's been so many games, Shabs. If we think 28 games into the season, how many games have we had? I think it was like there's 15 odd games where he's failed to register a shot or something crazy like that. Do you know what I mean? So this was a potential. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be, if it was just because the game was a bit more open and there was a bit more space for him to run into, that this is an anomaly. But, it'd be nice to see if this is something that he can build on a bit more. Those 2 goals now take him to 15 in all comps. I mean, I need another 10, my guy, before the end of the season for it to look respectable, especially considering you don't give us as much in open play. But what did you make of his performance generally, Shabs? And how much do you read to it? Was it, do you think it was just better just generally, or how much of Spurs is, maybe questionable tactical setup where we did have spaces to play into, we did have spaces to run into, pick up the ball, played a part?
I think a combination of different things. I don't know what Igor Tudor was doing in the 12 days he had with them, man. But I think there was some naivety there which benefited us, which we capitalized on. This guy said, Igor Tudor said, I want you lot to go man for man with these guys all over the pitch. Yeah. And that's perfect for a team as tactically flexible as Arsenal, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? And so it just enabled us, like with the way that we play, being able to just play out the back if need be, but Raya having that versatility as well to just clip long ones, and just arrow them to Gyokeres or whatnot. I think we saw that. And what happens sometimes, we could be criticized for just being a bit too static, not being vertical enough. Sometimes like you need to take what the game gives you. Yeah, it's not about playing your perfect way all the time. Take what the game gives you. And I saw like some early opportunities to just get it long to Saka, for Saka to run in behind. We saw Saka put through a couple of times. One time was quite unlucky. We saw the ball go long to Gyokeres as well, a couple of times or whatever. And then when they backed off us a little bit, we could still play it out and do what it is that we needed to do and just play with our usual style. So I think that worked and played well in our favor. The other thing as well is that a lot of criticism has been about how we how we struggle to break down low blocks, and there were times where Spurs went into low blocks and they had 5 at the back as well, so it was very cramped and congested at times. And what we tend to do, or what I've seen us do a lot in those instances, is we send Nketiah to go high and wide, we send Timber to go high and wide, or sometimes we ask them to invert, as interiors, and we didn't do that. It looked like we didn't do that, and we actually told them to chill. I don't know if it was by design or whatever, but it looked like we told them to chill, and by telling them to chill, it gave what's his name, Archie Gray, it gave Spence a full sense of security. So I saw Spence high a couple of times where, all right, fine, now you're leaving Saka exposed, versus who plays on that left? Who's playing on that left centre back for them? Might have been Dragusin.
No, it was Van de Ven and then
Van de Ven. Yeah, Van de Ven. So it's like, boy, if you want to leave it and if we want to hit that channel and you want to leave it to Van de Ven and Saka in a foot race, fair enough. But you know what I mean? I think what we're guilty of sometimes is when already there's no space, we go and clog the space by flooding players into those areas. And Timber, we've talked about Timber in the attacking sense, and he's no Ben White. And actually, in the final third is probably where his skill set lets him down, given how technically astute he is, and how good he is. And Nketiah, decent actually. He's had some decent contributions when he's been higher up the pitch, but he's no Calafiori. So sometimes we actually just need to do something different and draw players out, because otherwise we're just doing the same thing. And this is where we get into these tired patterns where we just can't see us breaking anyone down. So we actually done that, and it actually worked for us. And I thought, fair enough, So I saw us having a lot more space, a lot more availability, a lot more chance to kind of like cut back. When we were cutting back, we were able to find players like Eze, and that's how Eze got his first goal. You know what I mean? So for me, it's a combination of different things that worked in our favor tactically, and I think it was a combination of Spurs just being poor and us being good. But it allowed Eze to have space. It allowed Gyokeres to probably have more space than he's used to. It allowed us to get shots off, all of that stuff. So I liked it.
Yeah, well, let's see. I mean, I expect him to start against Chelsea again at the weekend. So I really hope. I believe it's something like 10 in his last 12 now. So this does seem to have been the purple patch that he has hit for this forms at this part of the season. And we could maybe, if I'm being fair to him, some of it could just be attributed to getting to, being adjusted more to his teammates, getting used to the league, etc., etc. I think, he probably also benefits because he isn't someone who I feel thrives in isolation, and I feel like he thrives with bodies close to him. When you look at this, when he was at Sporting and they had a 3-4-3, he had 2 inside 10s really, really close to him. So I feel like, Eze being very close to him, even if you see, Shabs for the first goal that he scored, I think he dragged Van de Ven away. So, that created sort of some space for him to pick up the ball. So I do think having players within close proximity might be a good way of mitigating some of his weaknesses. So, but yeah, I mean, speaking of Gyokeres, obviously, and his relationship with Eze, Eze's, that's now 5 goals in 2 games across North London derbies this season for Eze. Just to put it in context, I believe Harry Kane, who has like 13 odd goals against Arsenal in North London derbies, he only has 6 from open play. The other 7 were pens. So Eze is pretty much one short of Kane's open play tally, and he's played a lot less derbies in it. So, yeah. So I feel
man's legacies in tatters,
bruh. Listen, right now, whilst he's been disappointing, if you're going to do that against Tottenham every season, bro, you're going to have a lot of love. So talk to me. Let's get on to Eze, yeah, because I feel he hasn't, he was probably the guy I had most expectation for this season. And he's not lived up to that expectation. I feel at times, moving from Palace, where they had the lowest defensive line in the league, where he had a lot of space to run into and operate, I think he sometimes struggled how we build up. He sometimes struggled to see the spaces where the spaces to, I think Leroy made a good point in the chat, working hard as a 10 year, it's not just about being on the ball. You've got to, when you're playing against congested blocks, you've got to work hard to be able to get on the ball, whether that's inside or outside the block. And I think sometimes he has been guilty of being a bit too passive and games passing him by. And it's quite frustrating because for me, he's quite evidently probably the player in the team that has the most X factor. The one that could just do a mad thing from nothing. When we look at his stats, Shabs, I believe he is on something like, I think he's got 5. He's got something like 7 or 8 goals and like 4, 5 or 6 assists already this season. We're talking about someone that is incredibly productive, but hasn't always played. And even when he has played, maybe games have passed him by a bit more. So he's ended up being a bit of a conundrum. What I found interesting, I don't know if you saw Arteta's quotes post match after the North London derby. He said, "I feel like I figured out how to use Eze." So if that's the case, that bodes really well for going forward. I do think at times as well, the manager just could have shown him a bit more love, used him a bit more. I'm still of the belief that I really feel like his optimum level will be at left wing in this team with space to roam in. When we look at Palace, they played, like a 3-4-2-1, 2 inside forwards behind the striker. And he was often started left, but with a lot of freedom to roam inside. And I would like to see that. I was, when we signed him, I was always of the opinion, I thought that's what was going to happen. He was going to be used left. And we see a lot of him in Odegaard. As far as I'm aware, him and Odegaard have only started 2 games together, Shabs, all season. Obviously, Odegaard's been in and out, injured quite a bit. But I think that's quite crazy, to be honest. When I anticipated, I thought that was going to be one of the heavy combinations we would see across the season, 2 technicians linking up. And I still want to see it more. Do you know what I mean? So when we start with Rice and Zubi, have Eze being licensed to be able to drift in, especially with someone like Hincapie, who is more of a traditional overlapper. So yeah, I'm really happy for him, and I hope this is a confidence booster. But he definitely needs to show more at times as well. I think because of that, he will probably get the start against Chelsea. We'll come on to that preview in a minute as well. But talk to me, Shabs. Obviously, talk to me about how you thought he did in this game. I thought he was fantastic. His contributions were great. Match-winning moments, little moments of flair, set Saka in as well. So I was really impressed with how he performed. But challenge for him now going forward is to be consistent like that every game, not just when it's against Spurs.
I think Eze is just misprofiled. I think the coach has misprofiled him. And yeah, there are things that are true in terms of how hard he's worked or how hard he's failed to work as hard as he needs to be off the ball. That's true. But I talk about this a lot, yeah. I talk about kind of, I suppose, what we expect from players versus the reality. And I think we look at football players, especially professional football players, as though they're plug and play. And not everyone has that attribute. And some players you cannot just pull from out of the cold into a game situation and say, go perform at your highest level. A lot of these guys need rhythm. Yeah. And it's hard to find that rhythm if you go from being a starting feature every week to being a rotational piece. Now, when he did have a run, he didn't work hard enough off the ball. But I think he was doing positive things. I think he was doing enough to justify warranting starts in games when you consider who was getting picked up in and ahead of him. Yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing I have in my mind with him always is that the last time Arteta's had a supremely talented 10 was Ozil. And we all know how he mismanaged Ozil. Ozil was in a team that, just lacked quality. Probably aside from Ozil, Aubameyang, and you could argue, but it's debatable, David Luiz, there just wasn't quality in the side that Arteta inherited. So he just completely mismanaged Ozil. You know, you could say what you like this guy is one of the top creative playmakers in Europe and whatnot, and we saw how that went. So it doesn't surprise me that Arteta is still hinging on his requirements and his non-negotiables when it comes to what he wants off the ball. And it doesn't surprise me that it's yet another supremely talented attacking individual who the coach is not seeming to be able to draw or extract the best out of. I think it's a coaching and tactical issue. I think it's a coaching ego, and I think it's a tactical rigidity or stubbornness, which is why I don't feel like we see different from Eze. But I think he's misprofiled as well. And as much as I think he's fantastic when he plays centrally for us, because he actually is one of the few who is just very comfortable to be in and occupy those central spaces, and he's comfortable to receive the ball as tight as you like, and he can just do something to carry it past you or take it past you before you've even realized it. I do think his best utilization for us is on the left wing. And then in terms of like how he performed on Sunday, when we have seen him in the 10, we have seen him get in the box, we have seen him get in central positions, we have seen him closer to goal or closer to the centre forward, we've seen him get his shots off. And it wasn't dissimilar to how he filled his responsibilities in the first leg, in the reverse fixture, you know, in the home game last winter. So where he got his hat-trick. So for me, it's very, very similar. If you think about the similarity in positions where he picked up the ball and scored for his first goal from where he was picking up the ball and scoring in the reverse fixture against Tottenham as well. So, you know, for me, that's something that he has demonstrated that he's really good at. The other thing as well, if you think about Eze and his numbers over the last couple of seasons, he's got double-digit goals, more so goals. Eze is more of a scorer than a creator, if you look at his numbers and his outputs, but he's got double-digit goals in each of his last 3 seasons, all comps. Now, Eze is on course to match that, but Eze achieved that playing for Crystal Palace. By rights, yeah, given where we are, us standing, our footing in the table or whatever, the quality, like we're golfing quality between us and Crystal Palace and that, there's no reason Eze should not hit double figures for Arsenal. There's no reason. For me, there's no good reason. He should hit double figures.
Oh,
the reason he won't hit double figures.
He's on 7 now. So
he's on 7, yeah.
He could easily hit that. So
he should. You know. I'm saying he should. If he doesn't, for me, it's an indictment on the coach. That's what I'm saying. If he does, he's hit double figures every season for the last 3 seasons, brother. Playing for Crystal Palace. For Palace. He has to do it he has to. You know, there's the golf in quality, he has to hit double figures. All comp. I'm not talking about league, by the way. All comps. Minimum requirement.
So so the thing is, I partly agree with what you're saying. I don't fully agree because I don't put I agree that I think Arteta could have profiled him better and probably should profile him better, but I don't want to absolve the player of blame as well. Like, I feel like at times he goes through the motions too much. And this is me as a big Eze fan. I think at times he's too lele. Like, I don't think you can defend at times where, brother, the game's happening, he's just letting the game pass him by. Like, you've got to be able to stamp your authority on it and show personality as well. Like, I think at times, and where this. So to your point, this is Arsenal, my guy. Like, you've got to rise it yourself. You are begging for this move so much. Like, you got to get stuff cracking yourself. So I do hear where you're saying, where I think one, Arteta could have loved him better and showed him a bit more. But at the same time, my guy, this is a higher level.
This is what you wanted. I hear it.
You got to be active. You got to be active.
I hear it, bro, but I haven't seen him hide in the attacking third. And I know it's not good enough. I know it's not good enough in terms of how he's let the game pass him by and what I haven't seen him lack in the final third. I haven't really.
And that's the
I've
thing.
seen him come alive.
His ability is peak. That's why I'm kind of like, I need to see it more. But this was to my point, that I think sometimes as a 10, I think sometimes he struggles where to stand and struggles to look for space. That's why, and also a thing with him, he's quite low touch when if you remember the Wigan game we played in the FA Cup a couple of weeks ago, he played really deep in that game, innit? So my thing with Eze is that he just needs to be on the ball more. And because of how Arsenal tend to play, right, we tend to build up a lot through the wide areas, I would like for him to have like more, because for example, Saka gets the ball a lot, so they're playing on the right. So for me, I'm like, start him on the left with space to roam inside so he can access certain spaces and he can open up the pitch. Because sometimes when he ends up playing as a 10, sometimes it's to the right-hand side, and that's not always a favourable angle for him. So like I said, I do agree with some of the profiling stuff. And I think the manager, hopefully, from what he said post-Spurs, he can find a better way to utilise him. And yeah, so I guess we'll see. So
we'll see, man.
Yeah,
but for me, it was a good iteration of and good interpretation of the role. With Eze and with Gyokeres both, in essence, I think they were both very good, and they scored
they were
2 very good goals each. But I do think, and I am going to caveat it with Spurs were very poor.
Because
Spurs were very, very poor, and I need to see them put in that level of performance and or output or both against a better opposition with a more organized defense. I need to see it. That's what I need to see.
And that's a perfect segue. As we move into the weekend, we are playing our West London neighbours for what will be the 4th time this season. We drew 1-1 away in the reverse fixture. And then we obviously had them in the double-legged semi-final, 1-3-2 away, beat them 1-0 at home. So the 4th time we are playing Chelsea this season. This will be interesting, right? Because there was a lot of criticism of Arsenal in the second leg, if you remember, Shabs, where people said that we weren't doing enough, which is hilarious and funny considering Arsenal were the ones that were winning that game from the first leg. And it was Chelsea who needed to do stuff. But Chelsea spent 60 minutes in that game basically doing nothing. And then they tried to chuck on people and go for it at the end. And then the first moment they really attacked, we caught them, and we chinned them and we won the game 1-0. So I think this will be different because they are locked in a 4-way race for Champions League football, with Villa, United, Liverpool as well. So I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of mentality they come to the Emirates with. Maybe they'll think a draw's okay and they can pick up points in the other 9-10 games that they have left. But how do you see this going? Where it's just, for me, we're at home, we need to win by hook or by crook, whatever way. Whether the manager decides to go with the same team that started last week. Obviously Ødegaard was on the bench. Will he come in? Will he still be on the bench for this game? Will Havertz be back? Obviously we haven't seen Arteta's press conference yet, so we don't know what will happen. But I'd be inclined, probably, Shabs, on the surface. Bearing in mind this is the first week we've had off in a long time. So, being in all 4 comps, it's felt like we haven't had a break. So it's kind of like this has been a welcome break this week, I think, probably for the team and for the players themselves. Just, to recharge. So yeah, what are your thoughts? How would you like to see us set up? Do you think the manager will make any changes to the lineup? Would you like to see any other changes? And how do you see it playing out? Or how do you think Chelsea will arrive, bearing in mind what they need to do for their Champions League push as well?
So Chelsea have been shaky. Chelsea have drawn like 2 of the last 2.
Their last 2 games, drop points against Leeds and Burnley at home.
Yeah, exactly. The manner in which they've dropped points in those games as well has been really interesting. They've gone up, they've taken the lead, and then second half they've just kind of let their performance levels drop or let it slip, and it's got away from them. I think the Burnley one will sting them, especially being at home the other day. The Leeds one, the way they lost that as well weren't great. against Wolves as well. They kind of got 3 early goals, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And then
They drew, not lost to Leeds, bro.
Leeds.
Yeah.
They not Leeds, sorry. The Wolves one, they got 3 early goals, and then they kind of got pegged back a little bit in the second half. West Ham as well, the game before that, where what's his name? What's the hench guy? What's his name again?
They were 2-0 down and won it 3-2 in the last minute, basically.
It was 2-0 down and won it 3-2. But the one where my man wanted to brock up João Pedro.
Adama, yeah.
Adama, that's his name. Adama. I forgot his name for a minute. Can't believe that. So yeah, they've if you look back further, I think in the Champions League as well, there was a 3-2 against I want to say Napoli, I think it was. So they're seemingly like winning these goals on fine margins. I think apart from the whole game, which was the FA Cup game, I think they blamed them 3-0 or something like that. But they're winning these games by fine margins, or they're drawing these games having taken some sort of lead and letting the game get away from them as well. So they've played a lot of games under Liam Rosinia since he's been appointed, to be fair. So he's had time with them. He's had time to work with them. I think he took over right at the beginning of January, and they blamed Charlton in that 5-1 game. I think I remember that was his first game. So he's coached them for maybe he probably already got 15 games for them, to be fair. But I think that whilst Chelsea can score goals and their threat needs to be respected to an extent, I think if we turn up and just are organised, they're going to struggle to break us down. And I think defensively, they're fragile. They're not quite got it together. I don't think their goalie situation is that great in terms of, oh gosh, what's this fake Spanish goalkeeper again?
Robert Sanchez.
Sanchez. That's it. In terms of Sanchez, I don't think their situation's locked. So he seems to be the one that they've gone with. They've got bare goalkeepers, by the way, about 7 goalkeepers. He's the one that they've rolled the dice with. But yeah, it doesn't look secure. He looks shaky, conceding goals. Defensively, I'm not sure that they know what their best pairing is. Reece James, for all of his ability when he's fit, again, you don't know what game he's going to have or what performance levels he's going to have. That Cucurella is a nuisance. He's actually a nuisance footballer to me. I hope we blame him. And, Enzo and Caicedo in midfield. I was going to say something about Enzo, but let me just allow it there anyway. But the Argentines. So the black people need to blame. No, I'm joking. Anyway, we need to just blame. We need to just blame Chelsea. We need to just blame them. So I think if we
where for you will the game be won and lost? Like what do we need to do?
I think midfield. I think our midfield needs to be dominant against them, and I think we need to move the ball quick. You see, if we play with the purpose that we played against them with in the Carabao Cup game, where we just took it to them, yeah, and they didn't know what to do, they didn't know how to react. We played with speed. I like us when we play with speed and purpose and intention at the back. When we start to play with this slow, methodic, controlled football, and that it's just too. It's dull to watch. It's not as entertaining to watch. It doesn't fill me with confidence. And it's just like trying to control every aspect and measure of the game, actually. And I think it reduces from the actual ability and confidence of the footballers. Like, they're competent professional players that you've picked. They follow your systems and structures. They can do that. That's really good. But sometimes just let them go. Hell for leather. Sometimes just tell them, release the handbrake, go and just free up, free it up, man. Like,
for me,
like
it's
a hot day at Notting Hill Carnival, just free it up, man. Like, just do that. And it's not that. Sometimes it's just not that, man. It's just not that, and it becomes frustrating. I think we're good enough to to beat Chelsea quite comfortably, to be honest with you. And again, against them, I think we've played games or had results against them where we've maybe made it a bit too. We've dominated them, but in terms of like the scoreline, we've made the scoreline look more respectable than the actual story of the game. And yeah, that's it. But in terms of like lineup and approach, I think he needs to start with the same lineup as did against Spurs.
I think he'll keep that. I think he'll keep it as well, and then he will have, you know, Odegaard, Martinelli, Madueke, Jesus, and hopefully Havertz off the bench. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. Okay. Should we do one or two listeners' questions? Have you got them? I can't access it before. Before we wrap up.
So it's two actually. There's one from Kinkeshi, big up Kinkeshi, and he's asking us, most top teams are able to kill the game late on by keeping the ball. Why is it something that we struggle to do? It invites unnecessary pressure and makes the end of the game nervy. Does this stem from the players, the manager, or both? And another factor could be not having elite technicians.
So I feel like because the manager emphasizes out of possession structure and like when we need to, they can defend really well in a block. I feel like at times they become too confident in just defending in a block and sitting off in a block. But and that's what I liked what we did against Spurs. We didn't try to sit off to see out the game. You saw like Martinelli still hunting later on in games, you know, with look how the fourth goal came. You know, that wasn't through sitting back. Do you know what I mean? Almost in injury time. It was still through trying to make stuff happen. But yeah, it would be nice if we could see it out a bit more just by keeping the ball to kill the game completely. And it's not like we don't have the ability to do it. And I don't think that the manager encourages it. If I remember, there was a quote from him earlier this season. I think it was after we beat Wolves at home. So not the Wolves away game, the Wolves at home game. And he said, well, it's like we're getting into bad habits. And I guess, yeah, sometimes, you know, when you don't have enough time to train and you're just playing every 3 days, sometimes players default to what makes them comfortable rather than necessarily doing what's right. I'm trying not to be too harsh because the reality is, Shabs, right, where we've already played like almost 50 games this season, right? And we're not even in March yet. So I'm trying to give the mandem like grace in it because it's hard. Like it's hard when you're playing every 3 days continuously. You know, not every performance is going to be nice. And when I look at our overall record, like we've got an 80% win ratio this season. So, you know, there's certain things that frustrate me at times, but you've got to sometimes look at it in totality and be like, on the whole, they're still doing more things right than they are wrong. So yeah, I don't completely disagree that I'd like to see us maybe just kill games via possession at the end. But it's the Prem, man. Also, it's hard, bro. And like I said, some of the things we're moaning about, they're not exclusive to Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? So City conceded late goals. You know, you've seen them. You saw what happened when they were at home to Chelsea. They've lost that late. Do you know what I mean? It's not just Arsenal. People got to remember, City have lost 5 times already this season, and they've had 5 draws. So, and I don't know if anyone will remember their last game against Newcastle, they were hanging on. So again, yeah, it's not just exclusive to us, man. So yeah. And that's City with all their elite technicians, they were hanging on at home to Newcastle. So yeah, nothing is straightforward, man. So
yeah, it's not. And yeah, how all these teams approach us is all different as well. And sometimes it comes with its perks. But I always say that the onus is on us to just deal with what the game requires, you know. And in some games, we need to really take it to them. In some games, we need to wait it out, so sit back, soak and absorb it and just hit teams on the break and get something. Some games, we need the corner, deadlock, that type of thing. But yeah, I agree with you on the point of the volume of games that we've played. And we've looked fatigued in recent months. And I think some of it is about squad management as well. Lack of good enough squad management, and I think some of that has been unfortunate though, because some of that's been self-created, self-inflicted, but some of that's been misfortune. So yeah.
And last one,
this one's like a nostalgia one. So how does our current back four, including the goalkeeper, compare to one from our last title, or to the one, sorry, from our last title winning season? Player for player, who comes out on top? Would you bring anyone from the 03-04 season into today's defense? Leave out Ashley Cole. He was a different level.
No, you can't leave him out then. But listen, I have my thoughts here. But right now, I'm not willing to give for these man to earn my praise. They got to deliver this league title, bro. Right now, before I start putting anyone in conversations, I need the title. I'm not doing this hypothetical, nostalgic question again without some trophies to back. Shabs, I'm tired, bro. I'm tired, bro. I want to be sitting here in May gloating, bro. Gloating. And right now, PTSD is slapping me in the back of my neck. It is slapping me in the back of my neck. So they need to, yeah, I hear you. Listen, and I love some of these, man, and I will put them in conversations once they get me my trophy. Until they get me my trophy, they need to relax.
No, fair enough. I don't. Yeah, if you're not gonna do it, then there's no point.
You do it.
There's no point getting into this exercise, and I hear it. To be honest with you, I hear it. You know, for me, it's one of them ones where these guys are good. I think they're very good. Like assessing them on an individual basis, I think there aren't very many defenders in the history of the Prem that can go toe to toe with this current crop. But how they are perceived as individuals and as a collective is going to be attached to what they achieve as a team. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. You know, it's not my rules. I don't make up the rules. Those are just the rules. That's how it goes. Like, we could call Saliba the best ever centre back. People are going to go straight away to what he's won rather than how he performs.
And the thing is, while I don't always like trophy analysis when discussing players, the reality is, bro, these guys, until like you're going to be a footnote in Arsenal's history if you don't win. That's the reality. History remembers the winners, bro. Unfortunately, that's just how it is, bro. That's how it is. Tony Adams won 4 league titles, my guy. You man need to start putting some stuff on the board.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line, man. Really, like, you know, I can't say any better or any different to what you've said. That's the bottom line. It's like, win, they'll be elevated into a different stratosphere.
I'm telling you, once you win,
they'll be placed above some guys who have even won more titles than them.
That's it.
They have to win.
Once you win, the fans will do the work for you, bro. Yeah. All you got to do is deliver the goods, bro. Deliver the goods.
Just deliver it one time. Because the other way we could look at it is there's man that's won league titles because of the team they've played for that aren't good. There's man that have like Jimmy Traore is a Champions League medal winner. Luke Chadwick.
Bro, Pascal Segan is an invincible, bro. And we all know that brother was not good, bro. So
yeah, exactly. So, you know, we can't get sucked into this trophy analysis solely, but it does hold weight because ultimately people are not gonna remember the individual performance in any given season, but people will remember the years in which your teams won trophies and accolades and that's just the bottom line, isn't it?
That's facts, man. So all right, Shabs, thank you very much. Let's leave it there. Listeners, thank you very much for joining. Apologies again for the slackness, but we try and do our best where we do our best. We will be back post Chelsea. So tell a friend to tell a friend. Shabs, thank you very much for joining me.
Always,
listeners, we'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.
Yo, when I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard like Santan.